And what's interesting about those conversations is sometimes if you're truly objective in that approach, that there are cases where you'll determine that that solution that the client needs doesn't even involve you. Nothing we can do is what they really need. But my value in this discussion is I'm going to help you go find that other partner, that other company that does have the solution. And that also expands our ecosystem in pulling that new partner into future opportunities.
Welcome back to another installment of the NextGen Case Study series. On today's episode, we have Dr. Mike Saylor, who is the CEO and co-founder of Black Swan Cybersecurity, a company specializing in managed security services and incident response. He also serves as a professor of cybersecurity at the University of Texas in San Antonio. With over 30 years of experience in IT, cybersecurity, and digital forensics, Dr. Saylor is recognized as a leading expert in the field, focusing on enhancing digital security through AI and advanced cybersecurity measures, which is why we're excited to have him on the show. Dr. Mike, welcome to the program.
Thanks, sir. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited to pick your brain on some of the work that you're doing with Black Swan. But before we jump into all of that, I'd love to get just a couple of minutes of a quick background on who you are, where you came from, and how you landed as the CEO and co-founder of Black Swan.
Sure. Well, I'll try to make it a few minutes. Sometimes it's its own presentation, but so over 30 years in IT and cyber. I started, pretty much when I was right out of high school. Actually, before that, but always had an intrigue and interest in cyber, or really just the cool part of IT until it became cyber. Got it my intro into the industry, kind of doing more intelligence focused work. So really getting a good perspective of well, I guess maybe counterintelligence, how bad guys think and act, and then how do we protect ourselves or get ahead of that to some degree. And then I've also had a propensity for sharing what I know. So I've really come to love teaching and collaborating. And so I've been a college professor now for this is my 25th year. So workforce development's become another passion of mine. And then, so Black Swan Cybersecurity, co-founder there. It's actually my fifth company. So I've had four others. The first two focused primarily on just technology, computer hardware, that kind of thing, and the last two primarily on cyber. And so, when you first become an entrepreneur, there's that anxiety. Like, how do I do this? The risk, the road to success. And so I've definitely learned a lot of things there. But then over the years as well, developing those relationships and partnerships and the reputation and the kind of the do's and the don'ts. And so when we started Black Swan about 4.5 years ago, I had a great team of people I've worked with over the last 15, 20 years. And we came together and said, we're going to make something great. And we're doing well.
That's quite a colorful background. I'm particularly interested actually in the teaching and the collaborating. I'm one of those kinds of people too, who whenever I learn something, I always learn for the purpose of trying to pass that information on to somebody. So that's I think something that we might share as a common point of value. When it comes to more of your kind of day-to-day stuff, what do you get up to at Black Swan? What's some of your responsibilities? What do you take care of?
So definitely growth. So strategy with new opportunities, branding, working with our marketing and sales teams, negotiation or collaborating with other potential partners. Like the whole rising tides thing. I can't remember that saying, but that part of it stuck with me. Rising tide raises all ships, or something like that.
Right.
But I'm a firm believer in, the bigger and more supportive your ecosystem, the more successful you can be. And that's both, individually, but also as a company. And so for years, both the Black Swan, our current organization, and even the prior company I started, we didn't have a sales force. We grew through our relationship with our partners that already had a formal standardized sales force. We just taught them what we did, and collectively we went after new opportunities and ways to increase value and provide solutions to a broader market. And so instead of a startup that says, "Hey, let's go tackle this healthcare problem," we had various partners that specialized in certain verticals, and so that's the way we kind of spread out and force multiplied without having to start from scratch. So the idea then is, as far as like collaboration goes, is making sure that you're a supportive partner. It's not a one-way street. You're always there to answer the phone. You're always open to new ideas and figuring out new solutions. And what's interesting about those conversations is sometimes if you're truly objective in that approach, that there are cases where you'll determine that solution that the client needs doesn't even involve you. Nothing we can do is what they really need.
Right.
But my value in this discussion is I'm going to help you go find that other partner, that other company that does have the solution. And that also expands our ecosystem in pulling that new partner into future opportunities.
Yeah, so you really do practice what you preach in the way of that idea of relationship building and collaboration, but it's a reciprocal relationship, it seems, when you are able to work with a prospect, find out what their problem really is, and then whether or not you end up being the guy that does the thing that they need, you
That's
still
it.
work with them to get the solution that they need. And that's something that's very unique in the space of business development, because a lot of people are, data driven, marketing, ROI, direct attribution to certain things. And it seems like the work that you're doing is more based on having the right conversations with key people to create opportunities to solve problems.
Right. And that's a culture we built in the company too. So whether it's, the executive team or the analysts or the, data entry people, they're all, what can I do to help? It's not my job or no, which then kind of lent itself to the back office kind of joke that, well, not joke, but saying that, every opportunity we have to get in front of someone that has a need, we just need to figure out how to get to the yes, understanding that yes may not include us.
Yeah, which is a hard pill to swallow sometimes, especially in those early days. When you're, a lean operation, you have people that are relying on you, and that must be a difficult thing to a difficult challenge to overcome.
And I've had mentors over the years because I don't profess to be a know-it-all business person. In fact, I didn't do well in some of the business courses in my higher ed career.
Mm,
But I do have a lot of experience, and I think my ability to listen and rationalize the advice I'm given, how do I apply that, is pretty important and something I think I'm pretty good at. But those mentors over the years have told me, look, Mike, you've got to focus on you're doing too many things. You say you guys do all this stuff and you're spreading yourself too thin. You need to focus on these one or two like expert solution areas. And you kind of take that to heart. Sure, I think we can really mature and develop those things to be the best of the best, type of organization. But at the same time, when you're hunting for food and you need to survive, it's hard to watch that rabbit run by when you're out hunting for deer, right? So
right.
you may not find a deer, but you've already passed up that rabbit, and it's a smaller, shorter term deal. But you know what? It pays the bills. And it keeps your staff off the bench and maybe, more dynamic instead of, being a one-trick pony. Your staff is trained in all these different aspects, which at the end of the day in cyber really lend itself to being more effective at our job. We don't just look at the screen. We've actually gone out and had to do other stuff, which again makes us, I think, more effective.
So, Dr. Saylor, what advice were you given that gave you that light bulb moment to go, okay, you know what? Forget the rabbits. I got to focus on the deer.
Well, it was several pretty successful, older, more seasoned business people that I had a friendship with or a business relationship with that we just stayed in touch, and they became kind of that mentor.
Mm,
And so reaching back out to them on how things are going and where we're at, their advice was you need to focus your resources. You've got limited, fund, dollars and time and people. Build the widget you're gonna sell. And so sure, I tried that. but then I start, you see all these opportunities. You have the phone call that says, "Do you guys do this?" Well, we do, but we're really trying to focus on this other stuff. Let me refer you to, this other partner, and there goes the revenue. Or maybe we get a small referral fee, or a thank you, or something, or some kind of reciprocation. That's great, but that's down the road some bit. We miss the opportunity to get the cash in the door today. And I'm not saying that there were opportunities that came up that we would have to stretch to be successful at. I think one of the cool things about the teams that I built, I always look for dynamic resources. Not that everybody has to know everything, but it's a team that, when consolidated and can work together, can do just about anything. And so feeding off the strengths and capabilities of the whole team, and by team, I don't mean just my employees, I mean partners and everybody else. But specifically with regard to opportunities that come by the door or the window, we want to be able to step out and say, I think there's something we can help you with. And definitely over the years, that approach has helped fill in the revenue gaps of kind of the ebb and flow of the areas we were trying to really focus on.
Yeah, I'm getting this visual as you're kind of going through all of that of big puzzle pieces and small puzzle pieces. And when I mean that, I'm talking about, a small piece is easy to just very quickly fit it into a hole and, hey, listen, that's done. But the larger puzzle pieces, you got to get a crane, you got to get a team of people. There's all these moving parts. You got to lift it up and slide it over and then put it back down where it belongs. And if you didn't do the preliminary work, you're going to find out later that that puzzle piece doesn't fit and all that work was for nothing. How do
Right.
you figure out which puzzle pieces are yours?
So that's a good question, and I think some of that just comes with experience. And if my lack of hair and gray beard don't lend itself to experience, I'm not sure what will. Maybe if you watched me walk with my arthritis, that would help too. But long story short, some of those things you just have to learn by going through them. But
Mm,
then also, the level of trust and respect and confidence you have in the people running that crane, or the people on the ground, kind of guiding that piece into place. You've got to have a good team that gives you the right feedback and support, because, I think a lot of times the CEO or even the executive team is viewed as this, kind of dictatorship. This is what we're going to do. And the people actually doing that work, or that will eventually do that work, are they feel like they're being directed without the opportunity to give feedback. So you've got to create that environment where people feel safe to say, I don't think that's going to work. Or maybe if you got to turn that piece a little, or we need
mm.
more resources in order to get that we can't be successful at that with our current level of resources and capability. This is what we need. If you want that puzzle piece to fit, to drop into place, here's what we need to happen. Or I think we should give up on that before it gets, before we invest too much. Or let's find a partner that's more successful in that. And, we'll recognize less of the revenue or benefit, but at least, we're part of the success, and not just dropping it as something that didn't work out.
Right, right, right. There's the team being able to be assembled to move the pieces and get them to where they need to be, is so important. But then there's a whole other part of this that we're kind of skipping over, which is finding the people who have the holes in their picture for our puzzle pieces. So
Mm-hmm.
just playing on the analogy, Dr. Saylor, could we maybe explore what that looks like for you? You mentioned at the top of the show that you kind of like to get in the minds of the bad guys and find solutions to fit those problems. And so you've done a great deal of work there. How do you take those ideas now and present them to the right people? How do you even find the right people? Is that posed a challenge for you?
It has. So we've always grown steadily, but never. Much like probably most businesses, we never grow as fast as we'd like. And really, growth for us is just the opportunity to have those discussions. We've got a pretty good success rate at closing the deal or finding the solution when we have the opportunity to get in front of people. And so to your point, how do you find those opportunities? Well, there's a couple of ways. One is just everybody needs cyber. I mean, that's like the easiest thing to sell. You
Mm.
just have to understand what it is in cyber you're selling, because it's like saying, do you need medical coverage? Well, I do,
Yeah,
but
right.
what specifically, right? And I have that same discussion with my first year students. They come and say, I want to do cyber. Okay, well, what do you want to do in cyber? And they're like, what do you mean? It's cyber. I'm like, no, there's specific jobs in cyber. That's like saying I want to be a doctor. Well, do you want to be a generalist or a specialist or a
Mm.
surgeon, or what part? And so everybody needs cyber. You just have to be kind of aware and open to what comes after they say, yes, cyber's a risk, cyber's a concern, I have cyber problems. Well, how do we continue that conversation? Well, that's problem number one. So being able to put the right people at bat uh, when there's that softball pitch of, yes, I need that. What's next? Well, if you're not a good batter, then that conversation may fall apart pretty quick. So there's that part. And that's something that we've struggled with, finding the right type of sales or business development person that is capable of having the conversation to whatever degree it needs to go until they find the yes. A lot of them just like, okay, you don't need what I'm here to sell you. Thanks for your time. Well,
Mm.
then, so that's a problem. That's not necessarily part one, because I think part one precludes that, which is, well, how do I get the opportunity to be at bat? So there's
Mm.
a couple of things there. Well, there's stuff in the news all day long, whether it's threats, whether it's mainstream news like the CrowdStrike issue last week.
Hmm.
I guarantee you there's a lot of organizations that aren't happy with CrowdStrike right now. Well, if you have the ability to find out who CrowdStrike consumers were, then you've got the opportunity to have a conversation about, well, some alternatives. Well, if you're unhappy with CrowdStrike, can I work with you to find something else? Then there's legislative, like Kaspersky antivirus. The U.S. government and most states have outlawed Kaspersky products because they're Russian-based, and they were found, or at least presumed, to share information with Russian nation-state intelligence and that kind of thing. Similarly, well, let's go after all the organizations that we know were using Kaspersky and offer them an alternative. And that could be just consulting, kind of that solution finding, or if you have one, now you can, offer that to them. So there's those things. Well, then there's the, subscription type services, like with mailing lists. And I think there's a service called Apollo AI, which is, you put in a company name or a person, and it gives you their contact information and some information about them. And then you can develop email campaigns and this kind of thing. And I think there's a combination there, depending on what you're selling and your value proposition. How much of that can you condense into a consumable format, so that someone like me, if I have to scroll to read an email, I won't read it. It's too much. Call me, right? I don't have
Right.
time. And so you and I'm not a marketing person, but that's something I've learned. And some of that's just self analysis. Like I wouldn't do that, so why would I expect someone else to do that? And so there's things you learn. There's things that you're taught. So other marketing people, or hire the right marketing person that brings that experience. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a trial and error. You figure out what works for your organization, for what your value is, for for the way you present your value, and like to have those discussions. And so for us, very rarely do I send an email out that says, here's all the things we can do. My email to people is, if you have a cyber problem, I would love to have a conversation and just talk through it with you. Because that's my approach. That's my personality. I'm not coming to the discussion with a prepackaged solution or what I'm trying to sell. I just want the opportunity to talk to you. And in a lot of cases, I learn stuff, which is great for me too.
Mm.
And in a lot of cases, I'm able to offer some advice, or connect them with some other organization, or talk about what I've seen be successful or not. Answer questions, do education and awareness. I mean, I just need to have the conversation, and that's really where I like to start.
There's this duality that you've kind of created here. In the first bit of what you shared was, there really is a science here, in that we have a hypothesis. We guess that this company needs our help. We reach out to them, we put a specific message in front of them, test it out, see if it works. If it does, awesome. What did we learn along the way? Let's document those results, make sure that we now implement some of this into the next person that we form a hypothesis about. And so we just keep repeating this testing cycle to, I guess, hone in on what's going to be the most effective and efficient way for us to find new customers to serve. But then, and I don't want to minimize the work that you do, Dr. Saylor, but I do just want to maybe give it a bit of a contrast here. The other side of it is we're kind of winging it. We're playing it by ear. We jump into a conversation. We have no idea where it's going. We just hope that in that exploration, there is an opportunity for a collaboration or for, a partnership or some kind of opportunity presents itself. Uh, In that duality, I wonder if you could talk to how you have struck a balance in the way that you still effectively grow the business while maintaining a flexible approach to the way that you do sales and marketing.
Sure, and that was trial and error also. But I'll start with saying you're right. I do kind of wing it because I'm not a salesperson. I don't want to be seen as a salesperson. I want to be seen as kind of the advisor, person you can call to ask a question. We kind of joked you can call us in the middle of the night if you have a flat tire. We won't be the ones to show up to help you fix the tire, but we'll be on the phone with you, finding you the right person and all of that until you don't need us anymore. But the idea though is we have a marketing staff, we now have a sales staff, and they're doing and and when we were interviewing these people, we were like, look, we are not sales and marketing people. We're interviewing for people that know how to build that and run that, and then you just tell us what you need to be successful. So we're not going to be in your business telling you how to reword something unless you ask us our opinion, or if it is blatantly conflicting with our, my approach. And I'll give you an example of that. We subscribe to a LinkedIn program or service where they develop some messaging. They target an industry like healthcare. And then, like with my LinkedIn profile specifically, they were automatically going out and looking for healthcare leadership, and then sending them through my account these predefined messages. And there was the initial one, and then there was a follow-up one, and then there was a last one that maybe had a link to something. And that went on for a couple of weeks. And some of it, I don't think I really understood the program, but once I saw what was going on, I was looking at the messages going out, and I told the marketing guys, I'm like, look, that's not how I talk. That's not a message I would send to somebody. So at a minimum, we need to reword this and kind of my words and my approach. Well, then at the same time, they wanted me to do a video that would go out in one of these messages, and it was scripted. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm what have you. And I didn't like the video either. And that, again, not something I would have done. I wouldn't send people a video. I'd ask them to, let's get together for lunch or a coffee or a phone call. And so not only did I kind of ask them to stop that campaign because it didn't line up with me. I mean, if we wanted to do that under like a company account, that might have been different, but it was my account. And I think if it was somebody I knew that got those messages, they would automatically know that it wasn't me. And on the flip side of that, if it was somebody I didn't know that got those messages and then met me, they were coming to that conversation based on, with a preconceived, like maybe idea of what to expect based on the emails and stuff they got, which I didn't want either. And so there was that. And so then the last part I'll add is, as far as winging it, we consider ourselves a whole life cycle cyber, from what does it mean to, all right, our company's burning down because we had ransomware and all this other stuff. How do we get back on our feet and keep it from happening again? And we're getting sued and that kind of stuff. Because we do this very broad range of things, being able to consolidate into a value proposition, not only about how we can help, but also, if you subscribe to one thing that we do, how are you then also aware of all the other things we do? And so coming up with that messaging has been very difficult because it's not very concise. It's not quickly consumable. It's a paragraph at least. And so back to winging it, what we've had to do is consider these other um, influences like regulatory requirements. Like the FTC put out a safeguards rule that has primarily impacted auto dealerships. There's always healthcare regulations. There's always regulations for publicly traded companies. There's regulations for companies that want to do business with the government. And so when you look at verticals and how do we customize our message and our approach, it's a lot of times lined up with those objectives that organizations are already concerned that they're not meeting. And so how can we help with that? And then hopefully in the opportunity that we get to talk to them about that specific thing, we can expand into other areas they may have needs. But I think our approach and something we learned is, an organization would come to us and say, hey, for, X dollars a month, this service will provide you so many leads and so much of this or so much of that. We'll help you do whatever, search engine optimization, website, this, blogs, social, whatever it is. There was always a fee associated with that. And on the wing it and trial and error, you're investing in those opportunities without really understanding or having experience in the success potential. And so what we've pivoted to, and we've seen some change in how we're approached by those providers now, is that, let's try this for 30 days at no cost, or we guarantee you this much success, or there's no cost. And so that's helped us pivot a little easier economically in trying new things. But I still don't think we've found the right approach to marketing and getting our message out.
Yeah, that's a tough one because there's so much available in the way of strategy tools and resources and ideas and all that kind of stuff. And I wonder if it's in your experience, there's maybe just a misalignment with the way that you do things, because it sounds to me like there's a couple of things I pick up on, right? You're a relationship person. You like to have conversations with cool people and do cool things. And I think that that's a valuable way of approaching it. Beyond that, you have this skill that not many people have, which is the ability to teach and share knowledge. And so, creating opportunities inside of the things that you have value in, or the areas that you specifically have expertise in, like teaching and like that relationship building, I think is, one way maybe to consider the approach to the marketing. But it does pose its own specific challenge. How do you measure the success of that? How do you figure out which milestones are important and then decide that, yes, this is the right path to take? Can you speak to that a little bit from your experience of like what you're doing to really measure that?
Sure. And I can try. Again, an area that we were not very mature in. And again, it wasn't until just recently that we've got a team that knows how to do those things. Like I wouldn't know how to establish, key metrics for marketing. I mean, to me, it's how many sales calls did you make and how many of those resulted in meetings, and then how much of it converted to, projects sold. I mean, I'm sure there's more kind of granular or dynamic things that we should be measuring, but those are the only ones that come to mind. So there are a couple of elements today, and we have meetings every Monday to kind of gauge where we are with maybe a particular campaign or changes to something particular. So social media is a big one. Social media engagements and interaction and those types of things. We monitor that. We monitor our website traffic, and specifically we monitor website traffic related to maybe an email campaign or marketing activity targeting certain things. And so, for example, the website may have an industry specific page. Well, the statistics for that page would then be correlated to industry specific email campaigns or marketing, or an event that we went to, an industry related event. So there's those things. And then I think I brought up the example of what I'm familiar with, which is phone calls and sales. And that's actually the area that we probably measure the least. So we have a sales team, but I'm not asking them, how many phone calls did you make last week? I don't micromanage that way. What we do track is kind of the activity. And so how many proposals do we have outstanding? How many, where are we in the sales cycle? so all the stuff before it becomes a measurable opportunity, we don't track. But the measurable opportunity and conversion to revenue, we do track. We look at that every Monday. And then every Friday, we get the financial update with, all right, so here's where we are currently, and here's all the pipeline of deals and opportunities that we're hoping convert, and this is the impact it may have. So today, and we do have kind of a marketing budget, and even that's kind of loosey-goosey though, because I'll get called today about. In fact, I've got a call this afternoon to talk about an event next week that we didn't plan for, and so there's probably travel or something there that's going to impact the marketing budget. And so today, though we have a budget for marketing and sales, we also have Mike's monkey wrench that I often throw into to doing some kind of ad hoc one-off things.
Yeah, it's a difficult space to navigate. It sounds like you have the right attitude when it comes to the exploration of it. You're willing to try new things, and I think that's a very valuable asset. And what makes you probably a better leader in terms of how you guide your team. I know the one thing that I picked up on there is like it's not task-oriented management. I'm not telling them exactly what to do every single day. It's here's the goal. Let's work together or find tools and resources to help get you to that goal. And we work together to achieve that, which I think is very admirable. That's something that we've been missing for a very long time. And so the fact that you are kind of pioneering and leading that space is definitely a bonus. So Doctor, we're coming to the end of our time here together, and I'm very grateful for the wisdom that you've shared. There's so much insight and tons of value for our audience, and especially for me. I've learned a lot from talking with you. I wonder, just as we kind of come to a close here, if maybe we could look at what are some of the upcoming trends and things that are kind of coming down the pipeline that you're excited about.
There's a lot of things. I think with cyber, there's always something new. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, and I mean that quite literally. I mean the bad stuff really drives business. When something bad happens, everybody's awareness and excitement about cyber, and they don't want it to happen to them, is enhanced. The economy, believe it or not, drives interest in cyber because you have disgruntled employees that aren't getting pay raises or bonuses, or they got laid off. And so cybercrime increases and some of those things. Well, then kind of what excites me as well, this is the evolution of artificial intelligence. It's been around for a long time. We've used it for years in cybersecurity, but really the evolution of it from a resource and tool perspective. We've implemented AI and machine learning in the services that we provide, so that we can try and get ahead of bad stuff happening. We call it the boom or game day or the incident. How do we start to recognize things before the event kicks off? So changes in behavior, the symptomatic things that we should. As humans, we see weird stuff, but we rarely think it's risen to the level of telling somebody. But we can train AI and machine learning to tell us about all these little things that we would otherwise ignore, and the implication and what they could evolve into if we did ignore them. And so that helps us get ahead of, with ransomware, for example, a machine or a computer gets infected with ransomware. The ransomware is going to do some precursor things before it deploys the encryption to lock up your computer and tell you owe them money. It's those precursor things that we're excited that we're becoming more effective at identifying, so that we can stop the ransomware and keep your data safe and that kind of stuff. And I think there is a concern that AI is going to replace people. And I moderated a panel just last night on, we should change our thinking around that. And it's not that, I don't think, especially not in cyber, AI is not going to replace a person in cyber, but what will replace people is another person that's more familiar with AI than you are.
Right.
And so much like everything else in cyber, every day is you have to keep learning. You can't get a job in cyber and feel like you know it all and every day is the same. You have to have a willingness to continue to learn to be successful. Just why I teach it.
Right. You're the insight that you have into this is definitely firsthand, frontline. You have such a keen grasp on the space that it's refreshing to know that there's these new things that are coming down the pipeline that we all are going to benefit from. But to your point, it's the ones that are willing to get out there, get dirty, get their hands wet, and figure it out that are going to find the success versus the people who are resistant to it because the technology is here to stay and it's not going anywhere. So that's very helpful to kind of have that forecast of what's coming down the pipeline. Um, Mike, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm very grateful for it. I wonder if you could offer a piece of advice for somebody who is in a similar position to you, who is facing similar challenges. If you had a single piece of advice to offer them, what would that be?
Don't fear reaching out to a peer. Some of our closest collaborators are competitors, other cybersecurity firms. We all have gone through the same, iterations of learning and maturity. We all experience weird things from time to time, and reaching out and establishing at least a friendly, connection will go far. And that truly anything related to business, reach out to a peer and just say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm here. And maybe we can share insights and research and things from time to time. And I'll tell you, the cybersecurity, and I'm sure other industries are the same, but very, very network centric. I mean, it really is about who you know and who you can call and who you can rely on. It's very important. So reach out to a peer or more, multiple peers, establish your little ecosystem of support or bigger ecosystem of support, people you can call and rely on, collaborate with, share knowledge, and network, regardless of what it is: marketing, sales, growth, people, service, whatever it is. You find people that are open and willing to collaborate with you and be a resource for you, and also be willing to do the same for others.
Wonderful advice. Uh, Dr. Saylor, if somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain further or perhaps work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email or LinkedIn. LinkedIn probably, longer term. I hope to retire someday, but when I do, I'll probably be a consultant or an advisor to others. But so LinkedIn, Mike Saylor, or you can email me at Black Swan. M Saylor at blackswancybersecurity.com.
Beautiful. We'll make sure to link to all that stuff in the show notes for those listening and watching. And if you wanted to reach out to me and my team for marketing, by all means visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode, and I will see you in the next.